Hey everyone, Aaron here from MTGChallengers, and welcome to another Magic the Gathering deck tech. Today I'll be going over a deck I built called Selesnya Auras for Born of the Gods Standard. So this is a deck that I really like to play. With all of these sort of blocks of decks, I like to build one that's really unique, not seeing a whole lot of play, but still really good, and I definitely think that this deck fulfills those requirements. For those of you who are familiar with Bant Hexproof from Innistrad and Return to Ravnica block, this is really similar. It focuses on just playing a ton of auras and bestowing creatures onto hexproof guys, and then just killing your opponent in 1 to 2 swings. So let's get started with the creatures. I have a playset of Elvish Mystic. It's really good in this deck. The goal is to play him on turn 1 and ramp into all your enchantments, bestow creatures, and probably most importantly, Fleecemane Lion's monstrous ability. If you start playing Mystics with a Lion out, you're going to get to 5 mana really quickly, and with the Mystics, it can really sneak up on your opponent. And it also lets you get out Witchstalker on turn 2, which is just awesome. Then I have my other 1-drop, which is Gladecover Scout, a playset there as well. It's a 1-mana, 1/1 hexproof guy. It's just exactly where this deck wants to be in terms of a non-mana dork 1-drop. You play him turn 1 if you don't have any kind of ramping play with Elvish Mystic, and you just start loading him up with enchantments right away, and then just start bashing in. He's awesome. Now onto the 2-drops, I have a playset of Hero of Iroas, one of the new Born of the Gods cards. People have been searching for a deck this guy works in, and I really think that this is the one. You can't cast Ethereal Armors for free, unfortunately. Cards like this just don't work that way, but you can cast Courages for 2 mana, which is awesome. And then there's the super cheap bestow creatures, which is the big reason he's in here. You can bestow like Boon Satyrs for 4 mana, and Eidolons for 3. He's just really awesome. And if you're up against a deck that doesn't have a lot of removal, he's actually a really good target for the enchantments himself with his heroic ability. Then I have 4 Fleecemane Lion, one of the hexproof creatures in this deck. He doesn't start out with it, of course, but with the ramping from the Mystic, you'll be able to get it off pretty quickly, and then he'll just be unstoppable. At worst, he's just a vanilla 3/3 for 2, which is still really good. If you get his monstrous off and start enchanting him, it's very close to just being game over for your opponent. And then I have the main win condition of the deck, Witchstalker, 4 copies of course. Just awesome, big hexproof guy that can get much bigger. Again, you can get him out turn 2 with a Mystic, which is optimal. As a 3-drop hexproof creature, he's not Geist of St. Traft, not even close, but he's still very good. And since there isn't any Voices of Resurgence in this deck, it's nice to still have a card that disrupts the plays of control decks with the +1/+1 counter ability for blue and black spells. And then I have the auras of the deck, some of which are creatures. Boon Satyr is awesome for this deck, playset of course. It buffs up power a huge amount, and it has flash, which is just the icing on the cake. So you swing in with your little Gladecover Scout, and they just single block it or let it through. So before damage, you flash in and bestow a Boon Satyr, and it's just a really big blowout. It's just an awesome card overall. And next up, I have perhaps an even better bestow creature, Eidolon of Countless Battles, a playset of course. It's just completely insane in this deck, since every single non-land card in here is a creature or an aura. It's just going to pump up that hexproof guy so much, and it's just going to get bigger each turn you play more stuff. And for such a big effect, the bestow cost is really cheap, and it will be made even cheaper if you have the hero out. Unfortunately, the way it's worded, your enchantment creatures don't count as both, since it says aura, not enchantment. So a bestow creature is either an aura or a creature, so it will only get +1/+1 for the 1. Nevertheless, it's a ridiculous card for this deck, and I really love it. Then I have the non-creature auras. First off, 4 Ethereal Armor, of course. It's probably the best card in the deck overall. It's just so simple, so cheap, and it's so good. You can easily end up paying 1 mana to give something +4/+4 in first strike, and if you get multiples out, it just gets crazy. It makes your creatures practically unkillable in combat, which is one of the only ways hexproof creatures can be dealt with, so that makes it all the better. It's just an automatic 4-of in any enchantment-heavy deck that plays creatures. And then I have the last spell in the deck, Unflintching Courage, 4 of these as well. +2/+2 trample and lifelink is pretty tremendous. The lifelink especially, you'll just gain so much life off of it every swing. It's not uncommon for you to end the game at over 30 life, and when you have a hero out, getting to play both courage and armor on turn 3 is just an awesome feeling. The trample is also great. Even if they chump, they'll still be taking a lot of damage. So that's it for the spells. Now on to the mana base. I'm running 24 lands, 8 duels, and 16 basics, so 4 Temple Garden and 4 Temple of Plenty, of course, and then I have 8 forests and 8 plains. I do have a little bit more green than white in the deck, but getting double white for the Eidolon is really important, and I have extra green being produced by the Mystic, so I thought going half and half in the basics was a good idea. All of the mana base is colored, which is really important for the deck. I have both double green and double white costs, so I thought the mana should be as solid as possible, so that's why there isn't any like Mutavault or anything like that in here. So that's it for the main deck. Let's move on to the sideboard. First I have 2 Fiendslayer Paladin. These are mainly sided in against, of course, black and red decks. They usually take the place of 2 Fleecemane Lions in the main board, since decks with a lot of spot removal can usually just kill the lion before it becomes monstrous, so having a pseudo hexproof creature with protection from their spells is really good. Then I have 2 copies of God's Willing, just against the spot removal decks like mono black, to protect my non-hexproof creatures, in case I don't end up drawing my hexproof guys, and it interacts really well with the heroic ability on the hero. It's not the optimal focus for the deck, but it is there in case I don't draw my main win conditions. Next I have 3 Unravel the Aether. Every sideboard, especially in this meta, needs some enchantment removal, and having access to green is great since I get to play this card. It's just so good. It gets around indestructibility with all the gods, and it gets rid of pesky like detention spheres, assemble the legions, stuff that can really cause you trouble, and then it can also be used to pseudo-save your own enchantments. Having it back in your library certainly can't hurt your chances. And then I have 3 copies of Selesnya Charm, mainly for the exile mode against the gods, as well as the huge creatures like Pelucranos in mono green and Desecration Demon in mono black. Particularly Desecration Demon, since sacrificing outlets are the biggest way the decks get around hexproof, so it's awesome to have an answer to that. Then I have 3 Rootborn Defenses. Another way decks get around hexproof is through board wipes like Supreme Verdict and now Fated Retribution, so it's nice to have an answer to that as well. There aren't any tokens in this deck, it's just for the indestructibility. And finally I have 2 Sphere of Safety against other aggressive decks to lock them out of attacking me. This is an enchantment deck, of course, so chances are they will be having to pay a significant amount of mana just to attack, so it basically just locks them out of the game. And even if I have it on its own, it does count toward itself, so even a 1 mana per creature payment will slow them down at least some. So that's it for this deck tech. Thank you all very much for watching. To see these decks in action, check out our gameplays, and also be sure to keep up with the other decks that we cover. Thanks for visiting, and if you like what you see, subscribe for more Magic the Gathering content.